The rain was merciless that night, cold, sharp, and heavy enough to make the streetlights blur into pale ghosts in the distance. A little girl, no older than 6, clutched her mother's trembling hand as they huddled beneath a broken bus stop roof. Her tiny shoes were soaked through, her hair stuck to her cheeks, and her lips quivered as she whispered, "Don't cry, Mommy. Maybe that man will help us." She pointed toward a tall figure stepping out of a black car across the street, a man in a tailored suit, his umbrella shielding him from the storm. The man didn't look their way, not yet. But fate, as it often does, had already begun to weave something unforgettable between their worlds. The mother, Sarah, tightened her grip on her daughter's hand. She was exhausted, not just from the rain, but from the weight of 100 rejections, 1,000 silent prayers. Just months ago, she had a job, a husband, and a small apartment filled with laughter and the smell of morning pancakes. But life can crumble faster than it builds, and when her husband died in a car accident, everything else followed. Bills piled up. The landlord's kindness ran dry. The world turned colder. And now, standing in the storm, all she could think about was finding somewhere warm for her daughter, Lily. Before her small body gave in to the chill, the man across the street, Adrian Malik, was everything Sarah once dreamed of but never believed existed. A millionaire, yes, but not the type whose heart was cold as his money. Still, life had hardened him too. His success had come at the cost of something precious, his wife and unborn child, who he'd lost 5 years ago in the same kind of rain. Since then, he lived by a simple rule: don't get involved. People were messy. Pain was contagious. He'd built walls high enough that nothing could climb over them. But sometimes, a single glance can crack even the tallest wall. When Sarah looked up, their eyes met through the rain. For a second, time seemed to pause. Something in her eyes, the quiet desperation, the fierce love for her child, pulled at something buried deep inside him. He didn't move. But he couldn't look away. Sarah didn't expect him to help. People didn't, not anymore. So when Lily tugged at her sleeve and whispered again, "Mommy, please, maybe that man will help us," Sarah forced a weak smile. "Shoo, sweetheart. Let's find shelter first." But before she could take a step, her daughter ran, tiny legs splashing through puddles, right toward the stranger, Lily. Sarah's heart leapt. She ran after her, but by the time she reached them, Lily was already standing before Adrian, her small face tilted up, her voice trembling. "Mister, can you help my mommy? She's very tired, and she didn't eat today." The words hit him harder than he expected. He looked down at the little girl, her soaked dress clinging to her, her eyes wide with innocent hope. Sarah rushed forward, breathless, apologizing over and over. "I'm so sorry, sir," she didn't mean, but Adrian's voice cut through the rain, low and steady. "It's fine." He looked at Sarah again, at her shivering form, her eyes trying to hide the truth. "You both need to get out of the rain. Come." Sarah hesitated, shame flickering in her gaze. "No, we'll be fine." "I don't want to trouble, ma'am," he said quietly, "your daughter is shaking. This isn't about pride." That broke something inside her. She nodded, silent tears mixing with the rain. He opened the car door, ushered them in, and for the first time in a long while, Sarah felt warmth. The car ride was silent except for Lily's quiet humming as she tried to warm her hands. Adrian glanced at the rearview mirror, studying them. He didn't know why he cared, why he'd stopped. Maybe it was the look in that child's eyes. Or maybe, deep down, he saw the ghost of the life he'd lost that he dropped them at a nearby cafe, paid for hot soup and dry clothes, and started to leave. But as he turned, Lily's voice stopped him again. "Thank you, mister. Mommy said not all rich people are bad." She was right. He froze. Those words, so simple, yet piercing, stirred something inside him he thought had died. Without meaning to, he smiled for the first time in years. "You're very brave, young lady," he said. That night, Adrian went home to his empty mansion, but for the first time, silence didn't feel peaceful. It felt hollow. He couldn't stop thinking about that little girl and her mother, their eyes filled with hope despite the world's cruelty. And so, he made a decision, one that would change all their lives. The next morning, he drove back to the cafe, but they were gone. The staff said they'd left before dawn, thanking everyone for the help but not leaving a name. Something twisted in his chest, regret, maybe. Or guilt. He searched for them for weeks, quietly asking around, even checking homeless shelters, but there was no trace. Meanwhile, Sarah and Lily had found a temporary place at a community shelter. Sarah was working odd jobs, trying to stand again. She thought often of the stranger who'd helped them, the kindness that came when she least expected it. In a world that had taken so much, that one act had rekindled something she'd almost lost. Hope. Months passed. And one spring afternoon, fate brought them together again. Sarah was walking Lily home from school when she saw a banner outside a new community center, opening today, the Malik Foundation for Families in Need. Her steps slowed. The name sent a tremor through her heart, and then she saw him. Adrian. Standing on the steps, surrounded by cameras and people. He was giving a speech, not about business, not about wealth, but about compassion. Sometimes, he said, his eyes scanning the crowd, it only takes one small act of kindness to change the course of a life. I learned that from a little girl who reminded me that no matter how broken we are, we can still help someone stand. Sarah's breath caught. Lily squeezed her hand and whispered, "Mommy, that's the man who helped us." Adrian's gaze wandered across the crowd, and then, he saw them. The woman and child from that rainy night. Their eyes met again, and this time, both of them smiled. Not with sorrow, but with recognition. The story that began with rain was finding its sunlight. Later, when they spoke after the event, there were no grand promises, no dramatic gestures, just gratitude, warmth, and the quiet understanding that they had changed each other's lives. Sarah found a job through his foundation. Lily started school. And as time passed, the bond between them deepened, not out of pity, but out of something genuine, healing, and real. Years later, Lily would often tell the story to others, how one stormy night, a stranger with kind eyes helped her mother when the world turned away. And every time she did, she ended it the same way, "Don't cry, Mommy. Maybe that man will help us." And he did, not just with money, but with love, with belief, with humanity, because sometimes, the smallest voice in the rain can awaken the biggest heart.